Well, nice to know that black folks understand what really matters. Okay, so Black Panther has gone ahead and fulfilled all of your dirty little fantasies about what a black-led movie was going to be. Because, hey, Will Smith, even though he didn't do a damn thing for black people either, you seem to have forgotten about the fact that he was the reigning king of the box office for the better part of 15 or so years. Apparently it doesn't count unless it's a superhero now. You know what a slave is? A slave is someone who waits for somebody else to set him free. Black people have done that when it comes to media. We couldn't do our own, we need for the white media to do it for us. And we'll come up with all sorts of asinine things to say to try to defend it. Oh, Black Panther is just killing it at the box office. It's the 5th largest opening of all time for a movie, the 2nd largest Marvel Cinematic Universe release. Oh, the accolades go on and on and on. What was it that Michael B. Jordan said? It's not a movie, it's a movement. Yeah, a financial movement. Your money moving from your pockets and moving into Disney's. Black people are celebrating this movie like slavery just ended or something. You have black people trying to figure out how the world can they piggyback off of this movie. Clowns who have nothing to do with movies whatsoever. People just basically trying to do either some video or some social media post, something with Black Panther in there because they're trying to get some shine off of it. Oh, and we support this movie. It's just idiotic, because as black people you wouldn't know that we were in the middle of a race war, one that we're losing. Apparently we got time to take a coffee break and watch the continuing adventures of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's intellectual offspring. Why are black people happy about this movie? It's because so many of us have retreated into entertainment. Black people are hideously oversampled when it comes to watching TV, when it comes to watching entertainment in general. This is the clearest evidence that black people have totally given up on changing the real world. It's obvious now that we've instead decided we're going to retreat into a white media-generated dream world instead. Just understand, when Richard Spencer and his genocidal pals decide to come around, you're not going to have Captain America or Thor there to say, guys, aren't we better than this? They don't care about what's hot at the box office. Black Panther makes $400 million in 4 days. That's Disney's victory, not yours. Oh, but black people got better things to do. Black empowerment doesn't matter. Getting a white corporation to make a big budget flick with some black people as the acting leads, that's what matters. We are as gullible as ever when it comes to vicarious achievement. We're too lazy, too robbed of spirit, too apathetic to make moves for ourselves, so instead we try to take part in some other black person's success, even those who hate us. Barack Obama, Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, whomever. People think that a white movie studio's black superheroes getting a big theatrical and media push is the second coming or something, the way they've been acting. They totally diffused all the fervor or drive that we might have had to try to do our own thing. That's what's going on here. Apparently black people think that, oh, well, they did this because they can't deny the power of the black dollar. They have never denied the power of the black dollar. White media has never denied the power of the black dollar. White supremacy has never denied the power of the black dollar. It's black people who deny the power of the black dollar. We don't use it. Well, we don't use it for ourselves. We use it for everyone except ourselves. We didn't have to wait till now to get a big budget anything. We could have done it ourselves a long damn time ago, but our priorities are totally off. Whenever you have conversations with black people about things that matter, it's a shock and an embarrassment. Black people have decided that we're going to bow out of trying to compete with the white media. Instead, we have proven once again that we didn't mean it when we said we want a media on our own terms. I did a few video essays a while back about bridging the enthusiasm gap, and a lot of people just brushed it off. You see, the problem that I've realized, of course, is if you're not talking about something that's trending with current events, even the people who you think are supposed to be with you, well, they can't really get all that interested in what you're talking about. If you want to talk about people, they're in. If it's gossipy, they're in. If it's somehow as an adjunct of pop culture, they're in. You talk about putting black people in the driver's seat, crickets. I told you that the single most important factor to help us break out of the Chitlin circuit and into the big leagues was how much enthusiasm we were willing to bring to the things that truly empower us. If the only thing you can get enthused about is something that has Marvel's logo on it, or a Disney supported something or other, or hopefully we'll have some black people who are part of some big white franchise, if that's the only time that you can get excited about something, then you don't mean it when you say that you want black empowerment. You're a liar when you say that, as far as you're concerned, black people should be the leads. Why should we be the leads? You're sniffing around somebody else's behind, hoping that they'll drop a few crumbs to you. The black audience, such as it is, if it dared to ever take pride in its own creations, we would be the springboard to dominate the U.S. box office. We've already proven it now. 37 some odd percent of Black Panther's audience in the last 4 days were black people. That means 37% of the dollars that were generated came from black people's pockets. Now, just looking at the United States domestic gross for Black Panther out of $235 million estimated in the last 4 days, what that means is fully $87 million came from black people alone, and that in only 4 days. That's why I get sick and tired whenever I hear black people talking about what we ain't got, and here come the freaking excuses. You have no problem whatsoever emptying out your wallet and begging Disney to take seconds out of your paycheck simply because they put some black person in spandex and have some razzle-dazzle CGI along with them. But only if it comes from them. If it came from some black folk, you'd be trying to find ways to pick it apart. The enthusiasm gap is real. And by the way, just to put this in proper perspective for you, just to show you how silly black people are compared to the rest of the world, the Chinese are not releasing Black Panther in their theaters until well into March. So when white people sit there and talk about a simultaneous worldwide release, well, Black Panther ain't going to be roaring in China anytime soon. You see, the Chinese are not celebrating Black Panther's success at all. Now, part of the reason for that is the typical Asian anti-black racism, to be sure, but another part of the fact is the Chinese, they see that Disney is encroaching on their media turf. In fact, some of you who don't pay attention to things, you don't realize the Chinese are serious about protecting their own fledgling dominant movie industry. Just last month, they kicked The Last Jedi out of their theaters, for God's sake. That's no exaggeration, by the way. China did that. Now, sure, The Last Jedi was a turkey that tanked with Chinese audiences, but this was also a slap in the face to Disney. This was China drawing a line in the sand. They were making it clear the Chinese box office exists for the benefit of the Chinese. It does not exist to be some sort of media colonization by white people. China's box office is currently being dominated by yet another of their homegrown blockbuster movies, something you never heard of, Monster Hunter 2. I mean, they've already got the allegedly #1 movie in, as far as grossing movie in history goes, with that Tiger Assault, whatever the hell it was. I don't watch Chinese cinema, so that's why I'm so poorly versed on it. But China is nurturing their own talent, and they are working to protect that talent from having to compete in the free market. They are doing everything that they can to make sure that their guys have a leg up. They're tilting the scales in their people's favors. That's what the Chinese are doing. Gee, I wonder if that's the reason why they're winning. They're not trying to promote somebody else's movies. They're trying to promote their own. There is no amount of hype. There is no amount of market research. There is no amount of big budget razzle-dazzle CGI that's going to make the Chinese decide to put somebody else in the driver's seat. As far as they're concerned, if it ain't starring Chinese people coming from China, there's something wrong with it. I keep telling you, white supremacy plays a short con and a long con. And black people getting happy about Black Panther for any reason proves that you've fallen for both. Now, the short con in this case is that somehow this movie matters to you. They have gone and made $0.4 billion, your dollars, and you're so stupid as to think that that's some sort of victory for you. What was it that Dr. Claude Anderson said? For black people to be bragging about having some sort of green power with white businesses, that's like a freaking crackhead saying, I got crack power. You have power for what you own, not for what you're willing to buy. In fact, in any business transaction, it's the person who's looking to acquire something who's at a disadvantage. It's the guy who's holding that has the advantage. The guy who's got something that people want. That's the guy who's sitting in the catbird seat. But the short con is nowhere near as insidious as the long con. The long con is not mere psychological masturbation. That's just what they use to suck you in and keep you mollified. Thanks to this historic event, the long con for white supremacy is that now an entire generation of black people will abandon any goals of creating any sort of competing promotion for our own superheroes or works of pop entertainment. Because in order for you to get any sort of homegrown black entertainment or black media off the ground, you're going to require a critical mass of black people, large numbers, who are behind it and enthused about it and who want it. And with black people, we have now gone on the record showing, nah, if you just give us a side role in the next Captain America movie, or if you give us once every 10 or 20 years, give us a black superhero or in the lead role, that's good enough for us. We'll complain and whine and gripe about it in the meanwhile. That's what we'll do to fill the time in between those 10-year stints. So instead, black people have once again willingly reduced ourselves to begging like paupers for Disney, of all people, to make another black superhero flick so that we can give them more of our money. Disney just bought themselves at least 10 years of black apathy and black non-competition. That's what this was about. That's the long con. How do you keep black people on the plantation? Throw them some crumbs. Okay, this time we'll throw them a bone. This time they'll have a couple of scraps of meat on it. Black people are always falling for the pork barrel. Why stop now? No black person for the next 10 years, I imagine, is going to attempt to create or promote an intellectual property of our own. We slammed the door in the face of Nate Parker. Disney just showed us that if we're willing to wait 10 years or so, they'll go ahead and do it for us. They'll pony up the money for us. And black people are always trying to figure out how to get white people to put forward a few shekels on our behalf just to save us the trouble of having to do it ourselves because it's so damn difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult for us to raise the funds for what we need, even though we can come up with $87 million in 4 days on a whim, just on a freaking dud. Why build our own intellectual properties? We'll just sit back and let the house that racist Uncle Walt built do it for us. And that's the thing I can't get over. For all of you empty heads out there who wonder, why you gotta make such a big deal out of it, brother? Why you gotta be like that? Let me tell you why, stupid. I cannot and will never get over the fact that Walt Disney said that as long as he was alive, no black person was ever going to work for his company. And that edict remained in place even after he was dead. It certainly remained in place ideologically. Disney puts more money than any other company into taking all sorts of cheap shots at black people. Everything from Song of the South to The Frog Princess. Every time they show black people, it's going to be demeaning, it's going to be degrading. They're always going to put some slick stuff against us in there. And we keep going for it. Black people thought it was a victory when Viacom paid billions for BET, but what they were really doing was they were taking the brand equity that BET had, the fact that it was an inviolable trendsetter, and they were monopolizing it. That's what Viacom paid for. To be on the bleeding edge, not the cutting edge. Cutting edge is what you get from a lot of black people in the streets. White media has never been cutting edge. They've been a lagging indicator at most. It usually takes them 5 to 7 years. Black culture has a 5 to 7 year lead time on white culture. That's part of the reason why we had the advantage. But black people decided that we were going to become a wholly owned subsidiary of the white media. There is no shortage of black people who are willing to give their best effort to make sure that white people continue to have the lead when it comes to media. Yes, I'm talking about Timbaland and others. Hey, by the way, since Viacom put up all those billions of dollars for BET, that was 20 years ago, right? Have we seen any spoils yet from that victory? Bob Johnson took what little money he got from it, and he's sitting on a beach full time, and black people still flock to watch BET. I can tell you right now, if you had some Asian people who black folks have bought the company of, those Asians would have stopped watching. As soon as they find out that it's black people who are actually putting forward that stuff, they'd be like, we're going to watch something else. Or at the very least, they'll look and say, hey, why in the world should we buy black culture and black entertainment from black people? Let's find some, if you like it that much, we'll find some of our own brain dead Asian kids and we'll have them do their own pathetic imitation of it. White folks did the exact same thing. Black people are sitting back complaining about it, but at the end of the day, the world doesn't care what you sit back and complain about. What they care is what you're going to do about it. And what we've shown is what we're going to do, the only thing we're going to do, is to complain and say no fair. So many black people are so jolly in the ass because Walt Disney made a big budget movie and they actually didn't handicap it this time. That's all that you've seen here. You've seen an example of what would happen if black people were actually able to have a level playing field, at least from the standpoint of style and production. Yes, Black Panther's success is an accomplishment, but for whom and for what? Disney is a racist studio founded by a die-hard anti-black bigot. So they finally put some effort into a black-led movie. So the hell what? Black people didn't make $400 million this weekend. Disney did. You're sitting here smiling about how much of a success this is, and Disney's laughing all the way to the bank. They got richer, you got poorer. And you're happy about that. You thank them for the privilege. They prefer to promote only white images, but if the white media needs to, then they will put us up there so long as they get the proceeds. Now, black people should have known this going all the way back to freaking Amos and Andy. White supremacy will not do anything that costs them any power. And sadly, once again, we're happy about something that has nothing to do with us. So what if Black Panther's #1 at the box office? So what if it's the #1 movie of all time? That does not hurt white supremacy because it doesn't require white supremacy to give up any of their power. See, white supremacy is so deeply entrenched, their position is so well dug in that they can make it where you have to fight 100 years just to even get them to go ahead and say, okay, you've annoyed us. Here's a centimeter. We're not even going to give you an inch of ground. Here's a centimeter. And we're so happy because it took us a freaking 100 years to get that centimeter. That's what white supremacy has the ability to do. And you think that you're doing something big. We're doing big things now. We're doing big things now. The only thing that matters is, did white supremacy have to give up any of their power? Were you able to take any power from them? Did you take anything from them? You didn't. Oh, but they took a lot from you. $400 million, fool. Dr. John Henrik Clarke told you all about this con, and clearly most of you weren't listening. All media is used to promote an agenda, even mine. I am no exception to that. I'm here to promote an agenda of black empowerment. I am not here to entertain, though there are some people, even at this late date, still looking for political entertainment. I am not here to try to prove that I'm the smartest guy in the room. I am not here for the sake of trying to get attention. Look, the black community is overrun with coons, buffoons, and outright morons. That's certainly no secret. But by far, the absolute worst disease that too many of us have been suffering from is an all-consuming desperation for attention. To us, attention is a form of negotiable currency, and we'll do anything to get it. Soon as people look at us, we start performing. All kinds of know-nothing Negroes were trying to piggyback off of the hype behind this movie, trying to figure out if there was a way they could put Black Panther somewhere in their video description or on their web page or just something that so people will look at them, anything at all. See, for those of us who actually have the ability to do compelling work without having to piggyback on somebody else, you don't see us doing this stuff. But for a lot of other black folks who realize they ain't got a goddamn bit of talent, they're trying to figure out, how do I swing off of somebody else's coattails? Look at the box office, folks. You didn't have to wait until now to have a movie that had this kind of pull, that had this kind of success. You didn't have to wait for it, but you chose to wait for it. Will Smith was bringing in these same numbers for something like 15 years. You want to know why? It's because Will Smith realized that his success laid in the fact that, yeah, you can be a black man and they can hate it, but the truth of the matter is when people go to the movies, they will still pay money, big money, to see a movie where the CGI is the star. Okay, maybe they don't like the black guy out front, but they love the special effects. They love the big action set pieces. The action set pieces are the star. Oh, they had this big stunt in the movie, this car chase, these explosions, this big gunfight. Oh, the alien ship landed, the action set pieces, the aerial dogfights between F-16s and alien ships. That's the star. That's what they're showing up to see. That's not new, folks. It's been going on since the mid-90s. Everybody else has figured that out. The Chinese figured that out. And more Latin America is sort of kind of getting the idea. None of that is new. The only thing that is new is to have a white studio that actually mounts a production with a big budget, enough to have cutting-edge special effects and sets with big production value and a huge PR campaign behind it. That's the only thing that's different. They actually gave a black-led production the same big push that they've always given to the white ones. But you didn't have to wait for that like a slave. You didn't have to wait for Disney to do that. You could have done it on your own. For God's sake, Deadpool was made for like $55 million, and the thing went on to make $750 million. Now, out of that $87 million that black people cheerfully threw out there this last weekend, you're telling me that black people can't come up with $50 million just on a whim? That's interesting. You never hear the Asians talking about what they can't do. They don't lie to themselves, and they don't lie to each other. You have to have a movie that a white corporation is putting sufficient resources into it to make it an event. And I guess that's what the world it is that you're happy about. The white companies like us. They made an event out of this movie. See, they always make events out of their stuff. They never make events out of ours. Well, that's because they, a long time ago, decided that they were going to do that. That's where they put their effort at. That's where they put their focus at. That became their priority. Their priority was to put something together. Your priority was to wait for someone to present some media product to you. How many times do I have to tell you? They didn't create their media to promote your image. They created it to promote theirs. You have had a game of psychological chicken that took place this last weekend, and black people blinked. Oh, I forgot about blinked. We just threw ourselves at the feet of white people and said, "We will kiss your shoes forevermore." You just showed them that they don't have to ever make more than 1 or 2 black-led flicks every 10 years, and that you will still fill their pockets regardless. I would think that black people, if they thought, they would be resentful about this. They would be looking and going, you know what, how long are we going to let this go on? Instead, black people are acting like this is just the second coming. When you complain to them that whenever you sit there begging them, when y'all gonna make a black-led movie? When y'all gonna put some money out there? When y'all gonna treat us like y'all treat these white folks? Whenever you do that, what you're doing is you're reassuring them that they're still in the driver's seat and that you will just loyally wait forever until they make a move. You're not going to do anything. You want to be led around by the nose. You need them. You need their approbation. You need their validation. They know that that's exactly what this is about. This is about white power validating you. Because if you really were onto something, you'd be validating yourself. By the way, that's the only thing that's ever worked for black people. Every time we sit around waiting for white people to do something for us, as Malcolm X said, you'll be waiting a long time. And black people have gone on the record now announcing that we have totally signed away our personal sovereignty and our dignity to our enemies. All for a movie. They clearly see the laziness and the lack of self-respect for what it is. You're telling the truth, by the way, when you say, but we're starved for representations of black people in a powerful light. But what you've also admitted is that you're not willing to feed yourself. You'll sit there like a bump on a log, starving, until your enemy sees fit to give you a couple of crumbs. And keep in mind, even if you try to lie to yourself, and that seems to be very popular this last weekend, if you're one of those black people who wants to lie to yourself and say, well, the thing is, some black folks did get something out of it. Let me tell you something about white supremacy. Even under the circumstances where they have to give you some crumbs, they'll give you enough so that you don't necessarily drop dead, but they're never going to give you enough to become strong. That they will not do. The reason white supremacy is in total control is because black people just won't let it go. See, it ain't just Richard Spencer who refuses to let go of white supremacy. Black people are holding on to white supremacy for dear life. The reason that you're starving for anything at all is because you keep insisting on giving your money, your creativity, and your spiritual energy away. And giving it to the people who have been robbing you for the longest time. In fact, let's stop lying and saying that they've been robbing you. They ain't been robbing you. You've been sitting here getting them in a headlock and saying, take my money. Black people just keep on proving that we are simply not ready to stand on our own 2 feet, and we're not interested in black empowerment. We're damn sure not interested in having our own media or having our own anything. We lay awake at night wishing that we could be part of the white media machine. Because, you know, it ain't right unless there's some white folks around. We feel so uncomfortable when white folks ain't around. The white media has gotten fat off of us because we give them every crumb of our daily bread. And then we sit here with the nerve to say we're starved for representations of black people in a positive light. We put nothing into the things that we think up. We never get hyped about anything that truly matters, not to the extent that we have for something that comes from the white media. And this is why we suffer. Why have so many black people invested so much psychological and financial capital into something that comes from a bunch of racists? The Chinese aren't begging Disney to make them some superhero movies. They made their own. They're not begging Disney to treat their people the same way that Disney treats white actors and white producers and white talent. The Chinese did it for themselves. And now they will not allow anyone else to insinuate themselves into their arena. They didn't build it for the sake of hopefully making white people feel like, oh, well, now we got to come to terms with you. The Chinese are like, nah, we're building our machine to empower ourselves. It's going to be China first. Well, about these white folks, China is now showing when they kicked out The Last Jedi, when they did that, that was meant to make a statement. And the statement was, well, what about white people? That's what the Chinese are on. That's what they're doing. Black people will tell any lie in order to help support white supremacy. And we need to be honest about that reality. The biggest lie that I've heard from some of you is the oldest one in the book, and it seems to be your favorite. But brother, it's only one movie. Y'all don't listen to that Professor Black Truth. You want to see that movie? You go see that movie. No one told you not to go see it, stupid. I feel like Dr. John Henry Clark when he was talking about the Million Man March. You want to go see the damn thing? Go see the damn thing. Who the hell's stopping you, stupid? You see anyone standing in front of the movie theaters telling you not to? Have you ever seen me even once say, don't go see Black Panther? I'm not telling you don't go see it. I'm asking you, what the hell are you getting out of it? And obviously you don't have an answer. That's why you're saying, I'm not getting nothing out of it, but don't let them tell you what to do. That's funny because you don't have that kind of vitriol and venom for Disney. You don't have that kind of vitriol and venom for the white media. You don't get that enthused about anything that comes from the white media to the point of running it in the ground. You're enthused to the point of happiness, but you're never enthused to the point of rejecting it. You never get indignant about them when they sit here and run black people into the ground. You didn't get indignant about Nate Parker. White media was running him into the ground. You didn't say, man, screw them white folks. We'll go see whatever we want to see. Instead, a lot of you were like, well, he do got a white wife. So there goes that bit of hypocrisy. But on the point that so many black people have tried to put out there, the only dodge, the only feeble deflection that they have left, but it's only one movie. Brother, you're making too much out of it. It's just one movie, stupid. That lie is the entire reason that the white media treats you the way that they do. Because it's not just one movie. It is never just one movie. Certainly not with black people. We tell that lie at least a dozen times a day. We fuel white supremacy every minute of every day because we're constantly going to stores that we don't own, buying things we didn't produce from people who do not hire us and don't put any money in our pockets. It's not just one movie. It is every movie that you see that didn't come from you. It is every TV show you watch that didn't come from you. It is every production that you decide to consume that didn't come from you. It's all of them. It ain't just one, stupid. We have helped to fuel white supremacy every minute of every day. And even at this late date, with white supremacy sharpening the blades and saying it's time to finish that unfinished business of slavery, we still don't see anything wrong with it. We support everything white supremacy puts out in front of us, and we starve our own creative talents. Black women adored Sex and the City, even though it was about 4 white women who didn't even have black friends. Black people adored Game of Thrones, which regularly ran black people into the ground. You know, once they've got you investing in what they do, and once they've got you thoroughly ignoring what you have the ability to do, then they got you. They have you. Black people just refuse to get it. It matters what you give your time to. It matters what you give your effort to. It matters what you give your enthusiasm to. And most of all, it matters what you give your money to. But I have black people telling me it doesn't matter. All the while, these same black people for the last 4 days have been celebrating a movie making $400 million in 4 days. And what's the reason that they give for why they're so happy? Because this matters. And they don't see the contradiction. They don't see the hypocrisy. So you can lie all you want, but it doesn't take much to get you to cough up the truth, now does it? Look, if you want to be on the bandwagon for the white media, fine, stop faking and just be honest about it. That's what I'm telling you. You want to go ahead and support what the white media is doing and ignore what real black media is doing, you go ahead and you do that. But damn it, you're going to be honest about it. And you're not going to come to me being two-faced. Look, you enjoy white media and only theirs. You get enthused only about that. Fine, be honest about it. You love being marooned on white supremacy's island. The problem isn't that white supremacy has you by the throat. The problem is you're holding on to white supremacy, onto white power in a death's grip. You won't let it go. They use black actors or black politicians all the time as distractions. They've been doing it since the plantations. You're so busy looking at their black front men that you stop paying attention to the white men pulling the strings. They got you to think of their movie as being your movement. Pathetic. Edward Bernays literally wrote the book on propaganda, and he pioneered playing on the weak minds of the gullible. At the Easter Day Parade in 1929, it was Edward Bernays who came up with the idea to have white debutantes march in the parade smoking cigarettes. And the reason why was the tobacco companies wanted to figure out how to get women to become smokers. So Edward Bernays, he played on something that he already knew. Women's egos were fragile as tissue paper. And he told the tobacco companies that smoking cigarettes could be presented to women in the guise of empowerment. And it worked. Edward Bernays understood that women were already addicted to something far more compelling than nicotine. It was the desperation to appropriate male power. Because when women looked at female smokers, that's what they saw, is what they felt about it that Edward Bernays seized upon. He took a crass consumer marketing campaign and he made it into a movement too. So that trick of playing on people's pathetic lack of self-esteem is not new at all. It's very old. You have other people, you get them to have your way. I guess the difference between a lot of you and me is that I don't want what white supremacy has to offer. They're the B team. My team is the A team, though in too many cases we don't act like it. I don't care to be best buds with Captain America or Superman. I don't give a damn about playing in their sandbox. Because no matter how much fun you may think it is, the only thing you get from playing in white supremacy's sandbox is dirty.